Dear students, welcome to today's class. Our today's concept is active and passive immunity. Yes, before moving to this concept, just recall about the last slide concept, that is acquired immunity. So there we have seen acquired immunity was divided into two types. One is humoral immunity, that is given by B cell, and another one is cell mediated immunity given by T cells. So these two divisions were done based on how our immune system responds to the antigen. Clear. So this is clearly based on the response of immunity with the antigen. But now we are studying two more divisions of acquired immunity, that is active and passive immunity. These two divisions are done based on how antibodies are get produced in the body, whether they are produced naturally or they are taken from outside. Based on this, acquired immunity is divided into these two types. Let us first study about active immunity. In the active immunity, antibodies are produced within the immune system naturally. The purpose of antibody production is to destroy the antigen. So, when our immune system naturally produces antibodies to neutralize the antigen, that kind of immunity is comes under active immunity. So, this is a very slow process because when we are exposed with the pathogen, our immune system requires time for identification of pathogen and to study the activities of pathogen within the host. Then only it will produce us antibodies. So for all this, the immune system requires time. So active immunity is very slow, but it is very accurate, and it will give lasting immunity. That means secured immunity will be developed because of the active immunity. It is not a short time. Long lasting immunity is given by active immunity. That means once you are suffered from any kind of disease by the pathogen, the same disease you will not get in the future, because your body will be protected. That means your body will be already ready with the antibodies, so that in the future you will not get the same disorder. So that is actually how the active immune system works. Any kind of immunity you take, whether it is active or passive, immunity will develop only when we are get exposed to the pathogen. So if we come to the exposure to pathogen, there are two ways are present. One is natural and another one is artificial way. So natural way is nothing but unknowingly we are get exposed to the pathogen. Artificial is nothing but purposefully we are injected with the antigen. So that based on this, active immunity is again divided into two types: natural active immunity and artificial active immunity. So in the natural active immunity, when a person naturally get exposed to the pathogen by different sources, like from the contaminated water or from the contaminated food material, that pathogen will stimulate the immune system to produce antibodies. So because of the natural exposure, our immune system will be get activated and it will produce us antibodies. So that is called as natural active immunity. So you can take any of the example of infectious disorder, common cold, pneumonia or typhoid. So in all the cases, the kind of immunity develops is natural active immunity. Then artificial active immunity. In this case, a person will be injected with the pathogen purposefully. That means intentionally we are injected with the pathogen. But pathogen will not cause us any kind of disease here, because pathogen is not active. We are injected with inactive pathogen only to boost our immune system to destroy the pathogen in the future attack. So you are aware of vaccination. So vaccination is a best example of artificial active immunity. You might have know polio vaccine will be given to the children within the age group of 5 years. So this vaccination will be very effective so that a particular disease will not be seen in the future. So this is one preventive measure for some of the disorder infectious diseases. So why we are already vaccinated? So the purpose is just to prevent the getting of disease in the future. So we are already ready with the antibodies here. Whenever our body will be get the disease in the future, directly the immune system will release us antibodies. So we will discuss about the vaccination later. So just you understand, vaccination is a kind of active artificial active immunity. So here you can observe in both the case, that means in the natural active immunity and artificial active immunity, immune system will develops antibodies to destroy the pathogen, but only the way of exposure is different. So whenever our body will be produces antibodies to neutralize the pathogen, that is comes under active immunity. Second one is passive immunity. In this case, ready-made antibodies, that means already prepared antibodies injected to destroy disease-causing organism. So that when your body getting ready-made antibodies, you no need to wait for your body to synthesize antibody. So time required to destroy pathogen in this case is very less. It is not like a active immunity. So that it is a fastest process than active immunity. So that when the immunity is developed by ready-made antibodies, that kind of immunity comes under passive immunity. So there are two ways are there for developing passive immunity. One is natural way and another one is artificial way. So let us study how our body develops natural passive immunity by natural way. Best example is colostrum. So colostrum is yellowish fluid. So this fluid will be secreted by mother in first few days of lactation. So that the colostrum will be rich in antibodies. So usually IgA is one of the antibody present in mother milk. So that when the infant feed on breastfeeding, it will be supplied with all these ready-made antibodies. So it will develop some kind of defense mechanism, so that the antibodies, ready-made antibodies supplied through the mother milk will helps to build a passive immunity. This is one example. And another one is fetus. So fetus, when it is inside the mother womb, it will also get some kinds of ready-made antibodies, because the fetus is connected with the mother through placenta. So function of placenta is it will supply nutrients for the developing fetus. So not only nutrients, it will also supply some of the antibodies need for the protection of fetus, so that the fetus will also get a defense mechanism by some of the ready-made antibodies supplied through the placenta. These two are the natural ways of getting passive immunity. And one more is artificial way of passive immunity. The best example is snake bites. So in this case, uh, snake venom will be directly injected, so that you will be not having much time to wait for natural production of antibodies. So how they will treat the patient is they will inject antitoxins. This antitoxin will destroy snake venom. That means it will fight against the snake venom. It will save the life of patient. What is there in the antitoxin? So antitoxin is artificially prepared in the laboratory condition. It will be rich in antibodies, so that the patient will be injected with artificially prepared ready-made antibodies, so that it will save the life of patient by developing passive immunity, because antibodies are injected from outside. They are not naturally synthesized antibodies, they are prepared antibodies. So that it is called as artificial way of passive immunity. Yes, next one is vaccination and immunization. These two are best preventive measures for most of the infectious disorder. because nowadays we have vaccine for many diseases, and some of the deadly disorders are completely eradicated by the use of vaccine. Best example is smallpox. Earlier, smallpox was a deadly disorder, but by the use of vaccine, it was completely eradicated. So there is no more cases of smallpox now. And what is mean by vaccine? Vaccine is nothing but inactivated or weakened pathogen. So this is known as vaccine. So when we are injected with the vaccine, it will stimulate our immune system. So when the immune system is stimulated, it will produce us antibodies to neutralize the pathogen. But we are injected with inactive pathogen because we will not suffer from disease. Suppose if we were injected with the infectious pathogen, it might have caused the disease, but vaccine is in inactive form. Inactive form of pathogen does not cause us any disorder. So without causing disorder, vaccine just stimulating our immune system to develop antibodies to neutralize the antigen. Then one more function is it will also helpful to develop memory B and T cells. What is the function of memory B and T cells? So these cells will keep entire information regarding the antigen in memory, and in the subsequent encounter, that means once again in the future the real pathogen attacks your body, during that time uh, these memory cells will remind about the pathogen, and it will immediately releases antibodies to destroy antigen, so that it is very helpful for our body to destroy the pathogen in the real attack. So that I told, it is best preventive measure for some of the infectious diseases. But chances of vaccination failure is very less unless and until you misuse it. If you misuse it, or if you have not taken the adequate dosage in a particular schedule, it does not help you to prevent the disorder. So dosage as well as the proper schedule should be maintained for taking vaccination. So then only it will be very effective. Yes, in the vaccination, you can understand one thing is, so we are injected with the pathogen to stimulate the production of antibody. That means naturally antibodies are produced with the injection of antigen. So this is a type of artificial active immunity. Active immunity is nothing but antibodies are naturally get produced in the immune system to destroy pathogen. So this is the example comes under active immunity. Next one is immunization. In all cases, in all conditions, we can't wait for our body to produce antibodies. That will be impossible in some of the cases, like dog bite and snake bite. In these two examples, venom will be injected to the body, so that you will be not having enough time to wait for body to produce antibodies. So in such a cases, antitoxins will be injected. Why patient will be injected with antitoxins? How they will work? Antitoxins consist of ready-made antibodies. So when the patient is injected with the ready-made antibodies in the form of antitoxin, it will fight against the venom. That means it is helpful to get rid from some of the toxic substances. So, in this case, ready made antibodies, artificially prepared antibodies, are injected to the system, so that it is a kind of passive immunization. That means we are injected with the ready made antibodies. We are not waiting for our body to synthesize it. Instead of it, we are taking the antibodies from outside, they are artificially prepared. Our next concept is allergies. So many of you commonly have heard this terminology, that is allergy, because this is a very common term we have ever come across with. So most of us are allergic to dust particle and some are allergic to pollen grain, like this. What is mean by this allergy? So allergy can be defined as exaggerated response of immune system to certain substances in the environment. So exaggerated response is nothing but over response of the immune system. Usually, when any foreign particle enters our body, the immune system respond in a normal way. But in the allergic case, the response is not in a normal. Instead of that, it will show over response. That is nothing but allergy. For example, whenever you go to visit any new places, most of you get sneezing and some of you will get wheezing without any explained reason. You can't explain why your body shows those actions immediately. But if you comes back to your original place, suddenly all those symptom disappears. This is nothing but allergy. So because in the new area your body get exposed with lots of substances, those new substances will be reason for this allergic response. Then what are those substances responsible for allergic reaction? So there are certain substances in the environment are allergic to some people. Those substances are named as allergens. So, allergens may be dust, some are allergic to dust, and some are allergic to pollen. So, if you visit any new place, there lots of greenery will be there. So, in such a places, pollen grains will be present in more number, so that sneezing will be very common symptom, allergic symptom, because some are very allergic to pollen grains. And one more example of allergen is animal dander. So on the surface of some of the domestic animals like cat and dog, outer skin will peel out, and that is nothing but dander. Some are allergic to that also. So these are the few examples of allergens. They causes allergic response. Then the question is, what causes allergy? Allergy is caused due to the release of certain chemicals from mast cells. So mast cells, they are present in blood. So whenever the allergens are present in the system, it will release two chemicals. They are nothing but histamine and serotonin. So because of these two chemicals, most of the allergic reactions happens. Whatever may be the reaction, it may be sneezing, wheezing, or a watery eye. So all these things, allergic reactions appears because of these two chemicals. Then one more thing is, when the allergens are there in the system, our immune system will produce a specific type of antibodies to fight against it. So that antibody is IgE antibody. So this is a specific type of antibody releases in the immune system for allergic reactions. Then symptoms and treatment. So some of the symptoms we have already discussed. So some are I have listed here. Sneezing is one of the symptom. Then running nose. Then watery eye. So water will started coming out from the eyes continuously because of allergens. Then breathing problem. So this is a very common symptom in the children. They are present in metropolitan city, because when they are exposed to air pollutants, it may be dust or it may be smoke, so it will lead to breathing problem in children. So finally, in extreme condition, it will lead to asthma. So these are the few symptom. Depending on the kind of allergen, the symptom is also varies from person to person. And of course, we have a treatment for the allergy. So some of the anti-allergens are used for the treatment. Some are antihistamine, so it is a drug taken for allergic reaction. Then adrenaline, then serotonin. So these three are some of the drugs taken to get rid from the allergy.